Today we will address the issue of wild species, what their characteristics are, and we will learn about the case of an animal rescue that occurred in the department of Antioquia. In general, when we are going to give the definition of a subject, we do it through examples, but we do not always answer promptly what it is. Do you know what a species is? And what is a wild species? Natasha from the Conservation Park tells us.
Desde la clasificación taxonómica.
From the taxonomic classification, a species is the basic unit of classification. They are organisms or populations that can generate fertile offspring among themselves. Wild species are species that have completed their entire life cycle without human intervention.
Son los animales domésticos y los animales silvestres, ¿cierto?
Clear examples are domestic animals and wild animals. Wild animals have not undergone genetic intervention, while in order to improve certain phenotypic or genotypic characteristics, human beings have intervened in the genome for their benefit in domestic animals.
Todos los animales requieren hábitats.
All animals require totally different habitats. There is no habitat that works for all species, and that is why we talked about the presentation of some species in some places and not in others.
Igual con la intervención humana,
The same with human intervention. The whole issue of habitats have been modified and species have moved to other places, and species have been found where they were not usually found.
Los hábitats ideales.
The ideal habitats for the animals will always do, that it be a well-preserved place, that it has the availability of food, with the availability of shelter. But, as I told you, the requirements for all animals are different, because as we say we can see wild species inhabiting the Medellin River, which one would think is not the best ecosystem for them to inhabit, but that is a matter of adaptation to survive as a species. We already know, species are the organisms that can generate offspring among themselves, and wild species are those that have completed their life cycle, but have not had the intervention of man. Now you would know how to differentiate wild species from other types of species. I really don't. Wild species differ from invasive species, in that their distribution is original or native to Colombia. Invasive species are those that have not originated in Colombia and that are distributed and begin to generate some environmental problems. In addition, wild species differ from exotic ones, in their origin. Exotic species originated outside the national territory. They do not necessarily have an invasive potential, that is, they do not necessarily generate an environmental problem, but they do not originate from here in Colombia. In Colombia there are 6 species of cats, which have the largest populations. Some scientists say that there are 7 species. But the main ones are 6. They are, the big cats that they are, jaguars and pumas, that feed on large animals such as deer, tatabras, among others. The jaguar is that animal that has the greatest jaw strength in the world. It has spotted fur. These spots have ocelli. They are very special. While pumas are uniform in color, their body is yellow, fawn, brown. They have that range of coloration. Among the medium or small cats we have the other species. The one that would follow in size is the ocelot. They also have spotted fur, in fact a bit similar to jaguars. Obviously in size they are much smaller. The largest males reach weighing only 13 kilos. They are about the size of a domestic dog. They are followed by the jaguarundi. The jaguarundi have uniform color fur, but they can have different colors. They can be redheads, gray, brown. There is a lot of variation in their color and
Y además, aparte de ellos, tenemos
Apart from them we have two others that are the most felines. Small, the woolly margays, they also call it ancilla, or tigrina, which are the margays from colder lands. They are hairier, they are tiny,
casi que como un gato doméstico.
they are almost like a domestic cat, and finally the margays. The margays are also very small felines, which have a very long tail and are very agile to climb the trees.
De hecho, permanecen la mayor parte del día.
In fact, they remain most of the day mounted in the trees. These are the species we have in Colombia.
A nivel global existen muchas especies de felinos.
Globally there are many species of cats. Among the big cats the best known are lions, tigers, cheetahs, leopards. There are many variations such as the snow leopard, the lynx, the herbals.
Son animales fascinantes.
They are fascinating animals, and there is a wide range of sizes, color variations,
Diferentes tipos de alimentación.
different types of food, the family of felines or the Felidae family, a very large family and very successful at an evolutionary level.
A nivel evolutivo. ¿Por qué? Porque en la mayoría de los sitios del mundo
Because in most places in the world they are the top of the food chains, they are the biggest predators.
mayores depredadores.
Qué interesante.
How interesting. I think that with this information now I will be able to differentiate it, although there are many species.
En especial de los felinos,
And speaking of them, especially cats, at the end of 2021, the first albino cat was found in Colombia. This was a baby, and due to his albinism conditions, he cannot return to the natural environment. For this reason he is sheltered in a conservation park. Let's know the case.
La primera felina silvestre albina
The first albino wild feline has a second chance. The work articulated between the metropolitan area of Valle de Aburrá, Antioquia, the CES University and the Conservation Park.
en días pasados la comunidad de Amalfi.
In days past the community of Amalfi reported its existence and gave it up voluntarily. Its albinism conditions mean that it has to be under special care.
Tener esta piel
Having this skin in these conditions can cause cancer, due to being exposed to the sun. Likewise, the impossibility of camouflage makes it have difficulties to be able to hunt, and that can also be exposed hunted.
para ser cazada.
Well,
El albinismo es una condición
albinism is a very unusual condition in nature.
y es prácticamente un milagro.
It is practically a miracle to be able to perceive it, because most of the animals that are born with this condition
Esta condición pueden sufrir depredación,
can suffer predation or death at an early age,
entonces es muy complicado.
so it is very difficult to detect organisms with that condition, which implies the condition that the organism is incapable of generating melanin.
La melanina es un pigmento muy importante para proteger.
Melanin is a very important pigment.
La melanina genera el color en los ojos.
To protect us from the sun, melanin generates the color in the eyes, in the skin, in the fur, or in the case of humans, because in the hair, among other conditions. This makes the animal or person very vulnerable to sunlight and other environmental stimuli.
Los ambientales. Por eso cuando
So when an animal is born with albinism, it is likely that it will not survive or that it will live very little time.
en los felinos es algo muy inusual también.
In cats it is something very unusual too, because, as they differ from each other with the color variations in their fur, it is very rare to be able to detect one that does not have any type of color variation in them.
En el caso de la
Case of the albino feline that we currently have housed in the conservation park,
es un caso de albinismo total.
it is a case of total albinism, that is, it does not have any type of pigment in its skin, nor in its fur, nor in his eyes. That's why his eyes are red with some blue borders.
Es probable que los ojos cambien un poco de color.
It's possible that the eyes change a little color, but they will never be different from red, nor from blue.
En este sentido, el trabajo articulado
In this sense, the articulated work and the intention to generate environmental awareness and responsibility motivates us to continue working to generate awareness and properly be the voice of those sentient beings.
desde el área metropolitana y como director
From the metropolitan area and as director and also as a citizen, I extend an invitation, and it is to stop the trafficking of wildlife. This is the fourth most lucrative business in the world, but the distortions to the ecosystems that are generated have no value. Responsibility of all citizens to work work responsibly and defend environmental awareness for build a sustainable future.
Como vimos en la nota,
As we saw in the note, albinism is one of the most beautiful and rarest conditions in animals, but this has a negative point, since, for not having, let's say, their natural coloration, they cannot be camouflaged to hunt, to protect themselves from predators and be able to survive in their natural environment. And with this beautiful story we say goodbye for today. Remember to follow us on our social networks like at TV Agro, subscribe to our YouTube channel and activate the bell so that you are aware of all our content. See you in the next broadcast. Until soon.